This is the Sheffield United way, and this is our match preview for the home game against Stoke City, which takes place at 3 p.m. on Saturday. Now, this one is coming on the back of another disappointing midweek defeat, and more than that, a poor, I felt, attacking display. And so I think that means for the first time this season, the team, the manager, the squad really have some questions to answer as we come into this game on Saturday. There is no shame in the results. There's no shame in us losing to Leeds. There's no shame in losing away at Middlesbrough. They're two very good teams, two of probably the best teams in the league. And so two of the hardest games that we're going to have this season. So I'm not claiming this is panic stations. I'm not saying that it's a disaster and we need to tear it all up. But what I am saying is that it would be very, very nice to get a win in this game this weekend, just to put to bed some of those concerns that are starting to seep in, particularly around our attacking play. Now, this weekend is more than that, though, and it's going to be more than just the game of football that we're all going there to enjoy, because this is, of course, the first time that a lot of fans are going to have been back to Bramall Lane since the tragic news of the passing of George Baldock just a couple of weeks ago. Now, I'm sure that this is going to be honoured by the club in a really meaningful and emotional tribute before the game. But we also have to recognise that this is going to be really difficult and emotional, not just for the fans, but for the players as well. For the players, particularly for the coaching staff who've known George so well. It does feel as though a little bit, as much as I'm saying there in the opening, I really want us to get the win. It's really good to get back and get the 3 points. This one feels a little bit more important than that. And obviously there are bigger things that happen outside the world of football. And it's important that all the players, all the fans and everybody gets the opportunity to really honour that and really make this a bit of a special occasion for everybody who loved George, for everybody who wants to honour George. But also have to recognise it's going to be a really difficult sort of environment to play in for a lot of those players, given their experiences and their relationship with him. Now, we're going to focus on football for this preview, but I just thought it was really important that we did say that at the start, because we're hoping that that will be a really special environment and that we are all able to give a proper tribute towards George Baldock, and that we as fans can have that sort of collective grieving experience together in the ground before the game. But as I say, we do want to go back onto the football, and this has been a difficult week for United in terms of on-the-pitch results. Like I say, we had our first defeat of the season against Leeds, and we then backed that up with our second defeat of the season at Borough. The combined XG for United in that game does not make pretty reading. It's 0.6 XG created across 2 games, and that tells you exactly where it is that United have been struggling and exactly where we need to improve. We are finding it so difficult to break down either of those 2 teams. And yeah, we've got to work on that. We've got to get some form into our attacking players. We need 𝗤𝗄𝗎, Callum O'Hare. They've got to be contributing more to our general play, to our attacking play, and they've got to start hurting teams more than they are able to do at the minute. However, despite all that, despite a bad week, let's put this in the wider context. We're still 5th in the league. We would be 4th on points earned. It's just a case of course, that -2 still that niggles just a little bit in terms of how it's going to affect the season as it plays out. We've now played 2 of the hardest games of the season. They're out of the way. We're not going to have to play them again. So we're in a very strong position from a really good start to the season. Stoke, however, they've had a much more interesting season. They sacked manager Steven Schumacher after he had taken 6 points from their first 5 games. They then replaced him with 𝗫𝗫𝗄𝗃, and he has taken 6 points from their next 6 games. So they've changed manager, but it's a lot of consistency there, a lot of consistency in terms of their results, in terms of their performances. However, things have turned just a little bit. Those 6 points from 6 games could actually be condensed into 6 points from 4 games. They are unbeaten in their last 4, winning 1 and drawing 3. And that leaves them still in quite a difficult position. They're 17th in the table. They've got 12 points from their 11 games, and they sit just above our city rivals, Sheffield Wednesday, down towards the bottom of the league. Now, let's focus on the game. What's it going to look like for United in terms of our lineup? Injury-wise, there's not that much to report, really. 𝗤𝗄𝗎 obviously had a little bit of a knock, and that's why he didn't start midweek. That doesn't matter, because he's now suspended after picking up his 5th booking when he did come off the bench. Beyond that, is anybody coming back? Well, it's probably Jack Robinson that we're looking to. He started playing some minutes for the younger age group, so I would expect him now to be starting to be involved in and around the squad. But of course, he's not going to be a first choice because we've got the fantastic pairing of 𝗲𝗲𝗍𝗍 and Souttar. So it's just getting some squad depth back in, particularly in some of those key areas. And I've referenced bookings, Anel's on 4, so having a backup centre-half certainly won't be a bad thing as we start to move forward with that. Vinny has served his suspension. He should be back in the team, and we're expecting him to start and come straight back into the starting lineup. And I would expect that to be with Ollie Arblaster. He's sat on 3 bookings, so he's got a little bit of leeway before we have to start to worry about him getting a suspension. So let me know what you think in the comments for this one. I'm really interested in what everybody would do in terms of the formation, in terms of the setup. How would they try and address some of the issues we've had in the last few games? Personally, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think that we need to stick to this system that's served us so well so far this season. I would stick to the 4-2-3-1, and I think we all know where we'd need to be starting to make changes. So the defence, very familiar. It's the defence that I predict just about every game that I'm going to be doing the preview for. Michael Cooper in goal, a back four of 𝗤𝗏𝗄, Souttar, 𝗚𝗿𝗏𝗲𝗍, and unless there is a fitness concern that I'm not aware of, I would have Burrows come back in to start from that left side, because he does give us a little bit more attacking impetus from defence, and maybe that's something that we've been missing. In terms of the midfield, I would revert back, as I say, to that first choice, Sousa and Arblaster. But I do think those three attacking roles in front, something's got to change, because I don't think that's working. Our creativity just is not happening. And O'Hare in particular has been really disappointing in the last few games. While 𝗍𝗏𝗃, I should shout out, I think has been very good. And I think he's really started to step up to the plate. So I'd stick with 𝗍𝗏𝗃 and Brewster. I thought they were both lively, at least for the first half, the first 20 minutes maybe for Brewster in particular. And so I do think that they deserve to keep their place in the squad. On the left wing, it's the same thing I recommended before the last game. I'm going to go for it again. I've put Andre Brooks in. I think we need something different. I think having this inverted left winger who drifts into the middle actually isn't helping us as much as we thought it would, or maybe as much as it was at the start of the season when Hamer and O'Hare's link play was doing so it was working so effectively, shall we say. So I would make that change. I would go two wingers. I would put Brooks in. I also think that this is quite a nice one against Stoke. They were given so many problems by Bristol City midweek. They were able to get at them down the wings. They were able to create chances through balls in the box. And so I do think that we need to start trying to take advantage of that, especially with a man the size of 𝗤𝗏𝗲 in the middle. Now, we talk about 𝗤𝗏𝗲, and I've just talked about how we want to get wingers and cross it into him. I'm tempted to drop him. I have to admit, I think it's going to upset my dad. Sorry, Dad. But I just think he's been completely off the boil, just like Callum O'Hare for recent weeks. I wonder if it's that he's been travelling for Wales, he's been playing just about every game he's fit for United. So maybe he needs a little bit of a rest. I don't know, but I just don't think it's working for him at the moment. Against Swansea, we tried it with TYRESE 𝗵𝗵𝐵 and it didn't really work. But I would give him another chance. I'd see if he's got that match fitness. He's playing against his old club. He's really going to want to prove a point there. So I would put TYRESE 𝗵𝗵𝐵 back in, knowing that we've got more on the bench who can come on and make an impact, the way that he made a massive impact against Swansea. So that's what I do. But let me know what you think. Do you like what you're hearing? Do you disagree? Just tell me your thoughts. Now, before we get into our opposition preview, thank you to Panenka Bar. So Panenka is our pre-match bar, and it's where we love to spend our time before going into the United games. If you're looking for somewhere where you can meet up with your friends before you walk on down to Bramall Lane, this is the perfect place to meet, to have a drink, to see the scores coming in for some of those early kickoffs, and it's just ideally situated, just a short walk down to Bramall Lane, and so you can get right in the pre-match mood. Where you'll find Panenka is right at the entrance to the new Era Square. And as I say, that is just a couple of minutes walk away from Bramall Lane. Now, we have sadly been unable to get a contribution from a Stoke fan for this game due to the tight turnaround that we've had between midweek games. However, I have been able to get a little bit of a summary from a friend of mine in terms of what they look like, where are they at, and how are they going to line up. And I will try and walk us through that here today. Injury-wise, they've got a couple of players out. Lyndon Gooch and Ben Gibson both look to be a few weeks away from being able to start, while Bosun Lawal is closer. He's not too far away, but we still think he will miss this game. 𝗬𝗫𝗄𝗃, since he's come in at Stoke, along with most of the managers in the Championship, actually, when you start to look at that tactical analysis of how everybody's breaking it down, he's gone for a 4-2-3-1 system since his arrival at the club, and their team lines up. They have my old favourite, the player I've been desperate for to sign for years, Victor Johansson, starts in goal. We know his talent. We know how hard it is to get past him from his days at Rotherham. So hopefully we'll have our shooting boots on to give him a little bit more to do than maybe we have done in the past. Their back four is pretty consistent. Eric Bacat, Ben Gibson, Michael Rose and Ben Wilmot. They've played, I think they've started 3 of the last 4 games that Stoke have played, but they've also, at least 3 of those players has played in every game since 𝗵𝗏𝗃 has come into the club. So I think you can pretty much guarantee that that's going to be the majority of their defence. In terms of their midfield, they're going to have Wouter Berger. Now, he's a fantastic young Dutch midfielder. Really lit up the Championship in his first season last year. Not being quite as impactful this season so far, but we are expecting good things from him. He's a very good player and one that we'll need to keep our eye on. Alongside him, Lewis Koumas. Now, Lots of United fans will remember his dad tormenting United plenty of times when we've played against him when he was at West Brom. And so we have to hope that his son's not inherited that knack of scoring a goal at Bramall Lane. And then in front of them, we'll probably have 𝗠𝗏𝗍, Andrew Moran and Sam Gallagher. Sam Gallagher playing a little bit deeper than maybe he has done in the past at Preston because he's more of a supporting role behind Tom Cannon, who will be their starting number 9. A man heavily linked with us in the summer, and we have to hope that that doesn't come back to bite us, that he doesn't show us what we are missing. God, I hope he doesn't score. Because that'll be a nightmare in comparison to some of the takes that we're going to see online. And in particular, my own takes, because I'll lose my head. And we all know that's exactly what I do every week. Now, as discussed, they've been unbeaten in their last 4. They picked up 6 points. And so United, despite their disappointing start, will need to be on it for this game. In terms of the referee for this one is Ben Toner. Now, he has only ever reffed 10 games in the Championship before this. In those games, he's issued 48 yellows, 0 reds, but 5 penalties. 10 games, 5 penalties. 1 every 2 games. So that's certainly something United are going to have to keep an eye on. Maybe the fans could put a little bit of pressure on and try and get that penalty to fall in our favour. But I certainly think we need to be careful in and around our own boxes. He seems very quick to the whistle with that. He is, though, a bit of an unknown quality. He's never reffed United before. I've never personally watched him ref a game. I don't think. He has reffed other games in the Championship this season. Most notably, he reffed Wednesday's 3-2 win against West Brom. So he's at least familiar with Sheffield, if nothing else. He's clearly quite well liked by the EFL, as last season he reffed both the EFL Trophy and the League 2 playoff final. So I do think that we've potentially got a decent ref, but we obviously won't know till we see him for ourselves. Now, into the player connections, and our player connections are brought to you by 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗹𝗵. 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗹𝗵 is a virtual band, and many of their members are massive Blades fans. Please do go and check out 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗹𝗵.com, where you can see their latest album. Now, that is excellent. I think it's fantastic. Tall Tales of 10 Girls. And also, if you click on the interactive album part of their website, it's fantastic what they can do in creating you a bespoke album just the way that you would want it. And so definitely please go and check out 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗹𝗵. Now, in terms of how we do player connections, we always pick out 4 players who have played for both. And for this one, I've got my 4, and I will give you a peek behind the scenes. I was sent a massive ream. There was about 55 players on this big, long list from Statman Adam, who is a fantastic guy to know in the background, and he has got loads of connections for this one. So I know they're out there, so I need you to tell me in the comments which 4 you would have picked. I'm going for current Blade TYRESE Campbell. I shouted him out before I would start him in this game. He spent a long time at Stoke, his entire career before he came to United this summer. So maybe he'll have a point to prove this weekend. United legends are the 2 that I'm going for next. 𝗲𝗏𝗍𝐺𝐵𝐿𝐶𝐻, he retired with Stoke back in 2023. He'd only been with them just under 12 months, but he obviously spent a lot of his career at Bramall Lane, and we loved him at United. So it would be wrong not to give him the shout out in this situation. The other one is still a Stoke player, Enda Stevens, another one of these Sheffield United legends who's done so much for the club, who rose through those ranks with us under Chris Wilder the first time. And so another one who should be welcomed back with open arms to Bramall Lane and should get a really nice reception if he gets on the pitch this weekend. Now, to finish it, I'm going to go with one who's my old favourite. For anybody who was watching a few weeks ago, I did the preview against Portsmouth and I couldn't think of any players. I didn't know anybody in this player connection section. And so I randomly grabbed one out of thin air that was fortunately right. So despite missing Michael Doyle, Michael Brown, so many obvious ones, there's one player who stood out for me. That player also played for Stoke. I'm of course talking about the legend that is Vincent Perricard. Vincent Perricard played 38 times for Stoke. He only managed to score 2 goals, which is the same return he got in the 11 times he played for United. Now, as I say, I know there are loads of these, and we could go on for a long time about player connections. I know Statman Adam is already sat at home in front of his laptop, and he's screaming Lee Sanford right into his laptop screen. But to be fair to me, he does that anyway. I don't think it's anything to do with the video. Just a bit weird like that. So let me know who you would have shouted out in the comments. I want to see how many you can all name. Now, score predictions. What do we think is going to happen for this one? Now, if you want your score prediction to be shared as part of this video, please do head over to patreon.com/ChefUnitedWay, because it really helps us to continue what we do. And it's really nice to create this environment where we can talk all about United, talk all about football with other people who are just as passionate and committed as we are. So I really would love it as many people as possible could join that, because it's just a really nice environment to be able to be a part of. But who do our Patreons think the score is going to be this weekend? Ray thinks that we are going to continue with our attacking struggles. He thinks it's going to be a 0-0. Nick agrees. He thinks that we're also going to drop points, but he does think there'll be a goal in it. He thinks 1-1. Everybody else is feeling quite confident. Ant and Jono think that United win 2-1. James, lovely James. James thinks that we're going to win 2-0. Ron agrees. He also thinks we're going to win 2-0, but he went as far as to tell me who's going to score. He's going for 𝗍𝗂 and 𝗤𝗏𝗴 on the spreadsheet. Steve thinks that the defence will once again win out, and he thinks it's going to be a 1-0 win for the Blades. Hal's gone insane. Hal's completely lost his mind. I mean, what little mind Hal had left, Hal has now lost. He thinks that United are going to change formation, and then he thinks we're going to run away with this one to a massive 4-0 win at Bramall Lane. And to be honest, I hope he's right, but I don't see it myself. I am going to follow the wisdom of the Hive Mind. I'm going to follow the Patreon. I think it's going to be 2-1 to the Blades. And I actually really like Jono's shout where he said goals for 𝗍𝗂. And I do think 𝗤𝗏𝗴 could maybe get one off the bench if he's able to have the impact he had against Swansea. So, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Let's hope we can get back to winning ways, and let's hope we can honour George Baldock the best way possible back at Bramall Lane on Saturday. It's going to be emotional, but it's also going to be a great day. Up the Blades.